As mentioned, my name is Siniša, and I am founder and CEO of a company called Hunch. We are a local startup based out of Belgrade that is working in advertising technology, or actually automation of advertising. We're building a platform for creative automation and optimization. We're funded by the largest venture capital fund called South Central Ventures that's operating out of this area. And so the initial talk was actually that I was asked to do was the experience of taking a local startup globally, because of the first company that I was involved with, and that's the reason why I came back or came to Belgrade in 2005. But because Mr. Varga was giving a presentation on advertising and specifically AI in advertising, I thought this would be actually a good leeway to continue in that trend of advertising and innovation in advertising and talk about actually what our company does and give you guys an example of creative automation. So I think all of us here can agree today that now we live in the digital age, and that shit happens or shift happens, right? And what does that actually mean? We saw a lot of statistics in the previous presentation about what's happening in the digital age, but we can say that 3 hours a day everybody spends more on mobile. 3 more hours a day everybody spends on mobile, and 85% of people are actually on Facebook or Instagram for an hour or so a day, which basically translates to it being on social for 5 years in somebody's lifetime, which is a lot. So what does that actually mean in terms of the digital era? If you're anything like me, your experience on social or on Facebook or Instagram is something like this, where you're basically seeing content, you're scrolling through content, and you're consuming content at a greater rate, right? So you would agree that that's something that's sort of normal or standard. Our brains right now are being bombarded by the different images and videos, right? By consuming the content at a greater rate. What does that actually mean? In other words, why is it important and in this digital era? What is the result of this shift of moving into the digital era? Well, one of the important results is the fact that our brains have actually gotten faster. So according to an MIT study that they followed for the past 20 years, our brains have actually gotten faster over the past 20 years, 3 to 4 or 5 times faster in terms of processing images and videos. Okay, so something that would take you, a second can take you less than a second, to process. So if you're anything like me or anybody, or in the average, 87% of people actually, while they're viewing TV, they switch back to mobile because they're not getting enough of the content, because we've been trained to actually get more content now through mobile, that when we're viewing TVs, we're actually switching back to get more images and videos and to be more entertained, right? So what does that actually mean? Well, because our brains have gotten faster, our attention span has gotten lower, which means that now, if you're a brand, or if you're representing a brand, or if you're representing a client, you actually have less than 2 seconds, or about 1.7 seconds to grab my attention in this whole world of digital era, right? So long gone are the days of TV ads where they're actually working in terms of, hey, I've got 90 seconds and I have your attention for 90 seconds. Right now, if you go back to the slide where you're seeing the feed, you have 1.7 seconds to get my attention. So what does that mean, and how is that related to creative automation? Well, basically, the old model of creating content and distributing content is broken. In other words, it's becoming obsolete, where one company in the old days would say, okay, we've got one campaign with that one video and a few messages on the different social channels, and that's what we're going to be pushing forward. Well, today, that same brand is competing with companies, for example, like Machine Zone, that produce 27,000 videos weekly for their efforts online. So if you take that one example where you say, I have one video or maybe 2 videos, and you're competing against 20,000 videos that are being placed, who's going to win, right? So if we make the connection back to Mr. Varga's great presentation on AI and how Google is becoming smarter and Facebook is becoming smarter, the name of the game is actually the creative part. The bidding and the budgeting and the AI will take care of itself, and it will give you the best possible results based on the data that you give it. But the name of the game in terms of competition is the creative part. And how do you actually give that machine the different types of creatives to play with, right? And you cannot do that any longer by manual means. It doesn't make sense to produce 27,000 videos manually in order to compete. So what are these big players in the game? We saw what Google's doing. What are they doing, in other words, to combat this level of attention span that is decreasing to 1.7 seconds, for example? What is Facebook doing? They know that our attention span is getting slower. How are they helping brands and advertisers, get those results on Facebook, on Instagram. Well, they have a category of different types of products. So Facebook has a lot of different products, a lot of different placements. One of the most important, innovations that came out of Facebook is something that's called dynamic ads or automated ads. Is anybody here using dynamic ads by any chance? Okay, great. So you guys know that the dynamic ads, whether you're doing it for prospecting or you're doing it for retargeting, are great in terms of both scalability, they're always on, they're cost device, and they're highly relevant, right? The name of the game today on Facebook, on Instagram, on Google is to be relevant, to be contextual, to present your offer at the time, at the best time to the best person. So Facebook gives you specific products where that can happen, and one of them is dynamic ads. And so here are some of the clients that we worked with. This one is in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It's whether you're a clothing company or if you're a travel company, or if you're a lifestyle company or an FMCG company, or if you're in a real estate company. All the different brands are utilizing dynamic ads to create and automatically expand their creative assets online, right? So the best way that I thought to bring this point home is to give you guys an example of a recent local case study that we just did with a company called Gigatron here locally that operates. So we just had a month of November where it was Black November or Black Friday deals, and we'll take you through the case study of how we created different types of assets for them automatically. So the first thing you need in order for Facebook to work, you need to have all the different pixels and events set up. So we came in and we set up all the pixels and events. Then we set up the feed. So Gigatron is an e-commerce company, if you're not aware of. They have a catalog of different products. We made sure that those catalogs were nicely set up for the different feeds. And the last thing that we did was create templates, so that instead of having one product with one picture, now you can have different images for that one product. Okay, in this example here, you see one TV in 3 different images. The thing to mention here, these are not static images, these are actually dynamically created images. So their designers gave us actually just a static design, and we took that design and created dynamically through different layers, so that now all the TVs in the catalog would have those 3 designs. Here's an example of what that would look like. If you look here on the bottom right, those little labels that are yellow, those are actually variables that are dynamic, in other words, that change as the image or the catalog or the pricing changes. So the price changes, the name changes, the price with no decimals, image URLs. Those are all the things that happen on the fly that are generated. So collectively, one of the clients had, for example, a catalog of 50,000 products. Okay, so it would be manually a time-consuming and redundant process to create 50,000 ads, right? Unique ads. So what we did was we took that 50,000 catalog of products and we created different product sets. So we had a product set for, bikes, product sets for TVs, product sets for hoverboards, product sets for computers, laptops, and so on. And for each of those product sets, we created a dynamic design for those product sets. And each of those designs had about 10 different designs for them. So now we have, instead of one image that is for the entire store or and one ad for one store, now we have thousands of different ads specifically tailored for that product set. All right? And what that allows us to do, that allows us to basically do testing on A/B creative. So we know that Facebook is smart. We know that Facebook can find that person that has looked for the laptop, or in this case, the TV. We know that they know the intent, as Mr. Varga in a previous presentation said. Facebook and Google know the intent. The idea here is, how do you present the best creative possible to get that conversion at the time when that intent is happening? So we generated, roughly speaking, 10, 20,000 different creatives per day per product set. So here's an example for the bikes, and we'll go into the bidding. So essentially, the creative automation output for working with dynamic ads was, we generated roughly about 1,000 ad sets and 200,000 creatives. Those are 200,000 unique creatives, which means that every single picture is different than the other. So in the previous campaigns, what they were doing is they would have one campaign, a couple ad sets, and they would have maybe 5 different ads. And the ads would be very broad. It would say 20% discounts on all the laptops, or it'd be 25% discounts on TV. But what we did was we brought that home and we contextualized the ads to the actual user and personalized it for their user, for their home. So in other words, if we targeted families, right? If we targeted the families and we're targeting toys, we would create a template that is suitable for the toys and for the family. In other words, we would have a living room with some colorful backgrounds as opposed to having black. So that basically gave us an indication. We tested this, and, one of the things that we realized that people do love contextual and relevant ads. That shows through on both CPA, that's cost per action, or click-through, saying that they're engaging with the ad. We had a much better conversion, and ultimately we had 10 times better return on ad spend using creative automation. And it's not only the people that actually love the ads, Facebook actually loves contextual and relevant ads. Facebook wants to give its people a relevant and engaging experience while they're on feed, when they're scrolling. So it will actually penalize those that don't have good-looking creatives. Those creatives will not be placed in the feeds, but people won't see them. So some creative automation ideas that we've worked with and that we're currently working with clients is, the goal of creative automation is to bring home, or basically bring closer the actual person to what they're doing at that moment, okay, and bring the brand and the product to that person that's contextual, that's relevant. So here's an example of this one ad, which is, I think this is during the World Cup, where they had an ad that was automatically generated, and it had the actual score of the game, Spain versus Germany, was 2-2, okay? And then this particular client had 22% off for that particular ad for certain products. So what you can do with creative automation is really wide. You can do a lot of different things. Top of the mind is, company assets. Make sure that your company and all the assets that you have are automatically created and personalized. You can do CRM-based personalization, so if you have a specific set of clients or specific customers that are using specific products, you can automate that. Holiday creatives, Black Friday versus Thanksgiving versus Christmas, all of those things are created once and generated over and over thousands. One of the interesting things are, for example, weather-based creatives, where you could have one specific image or thousands of images that are, if it's raining outside, or if it's cold, versus if it's sunny, if it's warm. So today, if we were targeted by somebody here in Polish Subotica, it'd be a freezing cold day, and the creative should speak to that. It should say, hey, here's the weather, here's what it is, buy yourself a nice, cooked wine or something like that. And lastly, which is something that we're dabbling in right now, is Google keyword search-based creatives. In other words, when you go into Google and you type in your Google, keyword search, you get a drop-down of the different types of things that people are searching for. What we can do is we actually pull that data and create a specific feed, and then connect that feed to the actual product. So if we're talking about blue dresses, the actual copy can change automatically and say, if you have a blue dress that you're selling, you could say blue dress for prom, blue dress for a wedding, blue dress for this, blue dress for that, and that could automatically be tested on Facebook and Instagram. The important thing here is that the dynamic ads are not only for e-commerce, they're both for retail, travel, e-commerce. We're working with a sports betting company where we're automating the ads for the games that are happening. So you can actually see 2 games that are happening at that time for that product. Custom tailored automated ads are something that I think every brand can take advantage of. No matter what vertical you're in, no matter what type of product you have, you can create automated ads for Facebook and Instagram. And this is basically the game changer, but it allows you to give Beast more to play with. In other words, then Facebook knows more about you, it knows more about your users, it can actually find those users and find those clients for you. Okay, and that's basically it.